Your knees know the cold before your brain does. Even before you realize you've left the window cracked or that the floor tiles have chilled overnight, your knees are already whispering a warning, quiet, persistent, and oddly personal. You wake up and there it is, that heavy, creaky ache. The kind that makes getting out of bed feel like a small negotiation between your willpower and your joints. You reach down to rub them and they feel colder than the rest of your body. Not just on the surface deep down like the cold got in and stayed. And here's something most people never hear in a doctor's office. Cold knees aren't just uncomfortable, they're a sign your body is losing its natural heat regulation. And as we age, that can quietly drain your strength, disturb your sleep, and even affect how steady you walk the next day. Statistically speaking, if you're over 60, you've already lost up to 20% of the muscle mass that once protected those joints. And you're probably doing at least 2 things this winter that are unknowingly making that worse. Wearing the wrong kind of pajamas, sitting too long before bedtime, heating the room, but not the body. We'll get into that. And yes, you're not alone. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it? Let's create a little map of bedtime stories from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let your body settle into tonight's calm journey. Your knees are where the cold hides. Not the kind of cold that makes you shiver right away, but the kind that quietly seeps in when the sun goes down and your body is winding down. It's like your legs are slowly checking out for the day, but the knees refuse to go quietly. That's because knees, more than almost any joint, are both weight-bearing and vulnerable. They carry everything, feel everything, and sadly, they age faster than we expect. Now, here's something you may not know. Knee joint cartilage has no direct blood supply. That means it relies entirely on the fluid around it and gentle movement to stay nourished. So when the weather turns cold and you're not moving as much, your knees begin to starve quietly, subtly. Some doctors still debate whether cold weather directly worsens arthritis or if it's just the drop in activity that comes with colder seasons. But what they agree on is this: your body's perception of joint pain increases in the cold, especially when circulation is slow. And circulation, my friend, is the real villain hiding in the snow. Think back. Do you remember being a kid running barefoot outside and never thinking twice about your knees? Now compare that to the stiffness you feel today, just walking from the bedroom to the kitchen. It's not just age, it's accumulated microinflammation, reduced blood flow, and yes, habits you've carried for decades without question. Let me tell you a story. One of my patients, Mr. Fuck, 74 years old, still walks 2 miles every morning. But every winter he tells me his knees feel like someone stuffed them with gravel. He always thought it was just age. Until I asked him one thing: do you warm your knees before bed? He laughed. Warm my knees? What am I, a loaf of bread? We tried a few changes. Not heat patches, not painkillers, just a simple routine of wrapping his knees with a warm cloth before bed and again before morning walks. The result, after 3 weeks, no more morning stiffness. Not a miracle, just warmth. And warmth is not heat. There's a difference. Heat can flare inflammation if used the wrong way. Warmth, gentle and steady, is about supporting circulation, not blasting the joint with sudden temperature swings. Here's a tiny experiment you can try tonight. Place your hand on your chest, feel its warmth. Then, touch your knee. Notice the difference. Your body is protecting your core, but your knees, they're out in the cold. It's why people with heart conditions are told to keep their extremities warm, because blood gets selfish when it's cold. It retreats inward away from your knees, away from your feet. So what can you do? Well, you'll see. But tonight, remember this first truth: your knees don't just need support, they need to feel safe, warm, and gently remembered. They've carried you for decades. Isn't it time you return the favor? Your knees remember everything, even the things you've forgotten. That soccer injury in high school where you twisted just a little too hard. The stair you missed 10 years ago that sent you tumbling. The long hours spent kneeling in the garden or squatting in prayer or crouching to lift your grandchild with a proud smile but a silent twinge of pain. All those moments, they get logged away like pages in a dusty medical journal that only your knees know how to read. And when the weather turns cold, they open that book, not to punish you, but to remind you. Because here's the truth that most health brochures never mention. Old injuries don't always heal, they adapt. They hide behind muscle, they compensate. But the structural memory, it never leaves. That's why some of the worst knee stiffness doesn't start with a new injury. It reawakens from something decades old. Now, that doesn't mean you're doomed to pain every winter, but it does mean that if you feel your knees tightening up as the cold air rolls in, you're probably not imagining it. You're reliving it. Some doctors still debate the psychological connection between past trauma and joint pain flare-ups. But one thing's agreed, nerves hold memory. And as you age, your nervous system becomes a little more sensitive to sensation, especially where past damage lives. Let's take a simple example. Imagine a knee joint like a sponge inside a flexible sleeve. When you're young, the sponge is full of fluid and the sleeve moves freely. But over time, injuries and disuse dry it out. Not fully, but enough to make that sponge creak when compressed, especially in colder weather. Now add in age-related muscle loss sarcopenia, if we must give it a name, and the supporting structures around the knee begin to shrink. Less cushion, less warmth, less stability. Remember Mr. Fuck. He told me his knees ached most not when he was walking, but when he was just sitting still. Watching television, reading, listening to evening rain. Stillness doesn't equal rest. For aging joints, it often equals stagnation. That's why the cold feels worse at night. Because you're not moving. Because your circulation is low. Because your past is catching up with you in the silence of your living room. And that's when your knees whisper, "Hey, remember me." Here's the part that most people miss. You don't have to feel pain to be losing function. Sometimes the only sign is stiffness, or creaking, or that subtle hesitation when you get up from the couch. And when you ignore that signal, even with the best intentions, the knee compensates. It tightens, it adjusts, it changes your gait, which changes your hips, which strains your lower back. It's all connected. So yes, warming your knees isn't just about comfort, it's about protecting the delicate layered memory stored in your lower joints. And I'll let you in on a little secret. One of the most effective ways to soothe a memory flare-up is warmth plus gentle compression. Not tightness, just enough to feel held. A soft wrap, a knee sleeve, or even a folded towel fastened loosely around the joint while you sleep. I had a patient once who called it her knee hug. She swore she slept better with it not just physically, but emotionally, like she was tending to an old friend. Because that's what aging is, isn't it? Not a breakdown, a reunion with the parts of ourselves we've hurried past for too long. Now, let's be honest. You've probably done one or two things today that your knees didn't appreciate. A cold floor, a sudden squat, sitting cross-legged on a too low cushion. We all do it. But the difference between chronic damage and daily grace, it's how you end the day. So tonight, after this story winds down, I want you to try something. Sit at the edge of your bed. Rub your knees gently, not like they're sore, but like they're strong and tired. Then wrap them in something soft, not because they're weak, but because they remember and they deserve to feel safe again. You probably don't think about your knee skin very often, but it's doing more for your joints than you realize. In fact, the temperature of the skin around your knees tells a deeper story about what's happening beneath the surface, like a weather forecast written on your body. So here's a curious question for tonight. What if I told you the skin on your knees was a better health monitor than your smartwatch? Let's do a small check-in right now. Touch your chest, feel how warm it is. Now touch the outside of your knee. Cooler, right. That difference isn't just about clothing or drafts, it's about blood flow and what the body decides to prioritize as it settles down for the night. See, your body's built-in thermostat has a bias. It protects your vital organs first. When it senses a drop in temperature, it redirects blood to the core, your heart, lungs, brain. Your knees. They're politely excused from the warm circle. And yet those outer joints still expect to perform, to bend, stretch, carry balance, without the same thermal care. Some doctors argue that this is a natural evolutionary trade-off: keep the important parts warm. But as we age and our circulation slows, that trade-off becomes more costly, especially for joints with already reduced mobility. The result: cooler skin, slower joint fluid, and a creeping sense of stiffness, all from a simple shift in surface temperature. Here's a story I love to tell. One winter, I visited a monastery in the northern mountains. The monks there wrapped their knees not in high-tech fabric or synthetic warming sleeves, but in long wool cloths they wove themselves. Not too tight, not too hot, just enough to create a pocket of steady warmth around the joint. When I asked one of the elders why, he said, "Because cold knees make the mind restless." At first I thought he meant discomfort, but he explained when your knees are cold, the body keeps sending small stress signals to the brain even when you're resting, and that constant signaling, subtle as it is, affects sleep focus and mood. And guess what? Modern studies are beginning to back this up. There's growing evidence that joint discomfort, even mild, interferes with sleep quality, especially in seniors. Not because of pain, but because of poor thermal regulation. So, what can you do about it? Start with awareness. Just like we check the thermostat before bed, we should check our own body zones for warmth. Are your feet cold? Your hands? Your knees? If so, consider this little routine: a warm washcloth over the knees before sleep, followed by a soft layer wool fleece or even a double layer of cotton pajama fabric. Avoid anything synthetic that doesn't breathe. Your skin needs to feel safe, not suffocated. And skip the thick quilts that press down on the joint without wrapping around it. Heat works best when it's gentle and consistent, not trapped and heavy. Remember, you're not trying to heat the knee. You're encouraging your body to bring blood back to it. There's a saying in Eastern medicine, where blood flows, pain goes. And nothing invites blood flow like a little warmth in the right place. Now, here's a lesser-known fact. The skin on your knees is thinner than the skin on your back or thighs. That makes it more sensitive to temperature change and less able to insulate the joint below, which means when the cold hits, the knees feel it first. Some argue this is why elderly folks instinctively cover their knees when seated for long periods. It's not just about modesty or comfort, it's an intuitive act of self-preservation. But modern life has taught us to ignore these instincts. We wear shorts indoors in winter. We sit near windows with poor insulation. We walk on cold tiles barefoot because it's just for a minute. Each one is a small dismissal until the knees remind us otherwise. So tonight, try treating your knee skin like the sensitive, intelligent tissue it is. Give it care. Give it warmth. Not from fear, but from kindness. Because here's the truth. Your knees don't just carry your weight, they carry your habits, your stories, and your age. And they deserve to be warmed not with worry, but with wisdom. Your room may feel cozy, the heater hums, the blanket is thick, but your knees are still cold. Why? Because the real thermostat isn't on your wall, it's in your legs. You see, your body regulates warmth not just through the environment around you, but through how your blood moves. And when it comes to knee circulation is king. Let's imagine your legs as a quiet countryside road. In your youth, traffic moved fast, blood flowed freely, delivering warmth, oxygen, nutrients. But as you age, those roads narrow. Traffic slows. Delivery becomes spotty. And the farthest stops, like your knees, are the first to feel the chill. Now, here's where it gets more interesting. Your legs are one of the most stubborn places for circulation. The blood has to fight gravity to return to the heart, and if you sit too long, that return slows to a crawl. You've probably noticed this without realizing. Ever felt your feet go numb after sitting in a recliner too long? Or your knees feel stiff after a movie or a nap? That's circulation gently waving a red flag. Or maybe a blue one, since your knees are quietly cooling down without enough movement to push the blood through. Some doctors still debate how much movement is necessary to keep elderly joints warm. But most agree stillness is the silent enemy of knee comfort. Here's a small true story. One of my patients, 81-year-old Mrs. Hahn, loved reading on her porch during chilly afternoons. She'd sit bundled in 3 blankets, but her knees still ached every night. She swore it was the wind or old age or just winter's curse. I asked her to try something odd. Before settling into her chair, she'd do 3 minutes of slow, knee-focused walking back and forth across her hallway, just enough to feel her blood move. Then, after sitting for 30 minutes, she'd repeat the same gentle walk. 2 weeks later, her nightly knee pain vanished. Not because the temperature changed, but because her internal thermostat finally started working again. Let's get technical for a moment, but in plain English. Your knees stay warm when blood moves through 2 main paths, the popliteal artery behind the knee and the network of veins below the kneecap. When you're still, especially with bent legs, these pathways compress. Circulation slows. Cold creeps in. So, what's the fix? A few small habits. Never sit longer than 45 minutes without standing and stretching the knees. Before bed, gently pedal your legs in the air for 30 seconds. Use elevation during the day to help venous return, but not at night, unless your doctor advises. Also beware of crossing your legs too long. It's charming, yes, but your knees pay the price. Here's something quirky but true. Compression socks with knee coverage can actually help maintain warmth if they're loose and breathable. Not the tight, itchy kind, the gentle, reassuring kind, like a soft hand saying, "I've got you." Let's bring this back to you. Tonight, when you lie down, notice how your knees feel in the first 5 minutes. Do they start warm, then cool as you settle? That's circulation winding down. It happens faster with age, especially in cooler weather. But now that you're aware of it, you can work with it. Give your body signals that say, hey, it's okay to send warmth here. Warmth doesn't always start from the outside. Sometimes it starts with movement, sometimes with awareness, and sometimes simply with the choice to care. You're not trying to control every degree of your body temperature. You're trying to support the little systems that keep you feeling like you. Because the goal isn't just warm knees. It's a warm, mobile, dependable version of yourself, still walking strong, still sleeping deeply. And believe me, your knees will thank you in the softest, most reliable way. No complaints. Let me tell you a secret about your knees at night. While you're drifting into sleep, your body is quietly making a dozen microscopic decisions about how your joints will feel tomorrow morning. And those decisions, they're being made without your permission. You lie down, you pull up the blanket, your breath slows, but your knees, they begin to cool, not immediately, not dramatically, just gently like the embers of a fire dying out. Here's what's happening behind the scenes. During sleep, your body shifts into repair mode. Heart rate slows, body temperature drops slightly, muscles relax, blood pressure lowers. It's beautiful restorative even. But for your knees, especially aging ones, this is also when joint fluid thickens, circulation reduces, and stiffness starts to take root. You see, joints are a little like old doors. When they're used, often they stay easy to open. But leave them alone too long in the cold, and suddenly they creak. This is why so many people over 60 wake up with stiff knees. Not because they slept badly, but because they slept still. Some experts refer to this as sleep-related joint dehydration. During long stretches of inactivity, your synovial fluid, the lubricant inside the joint, becomes sluggish, like syrup on a cold morning. And while some doctors question whether this is clinically significant, nearly all elderly patients recognize the feeling. That slow bend in the morning, that first wince getting out of bed, that tiny moment of doubt on the first step to the bathroom. But don't worry, there are ways to trick the body into being kinder to your knees while you sleep. Let's start with positioning. The number one sleep position that worsens knee circulation. Lying flat on your back with legs fully straight. Sounds innocent, right? But this position flattens the natural curve of the knees and lets blood pool below the joint. Instead, try this simple shift. Place a soft pillow or folded towel under your knees, not high, just enough to gently elevate them. This slight bend reduces pressure, supports circulation, and keeps the knee joint more relaxed through the night. Another tip. Avoid sleeping with your knees directly touching each other. If you're a side sleeper, place a pillow between your knees. This not only keeps your spine aligned, but also keeps the knees from pressing bone on bone, which can aggravate stiffness. Now here's a surprising one. What you do 10 minutes before bed can influence how your knees behave 8 hours later. Try a warm compress before sleep. Not hot, not steaming, just a mild moist heat. Wrap it around the knee while you sit and unwind. Read a page. Listen to soft music. Brush your teeth. Let the warmth tell your joint. You're safe. You're ready. And the bonus. This gentle warming encourages local blood flow right before your body begins its sleep. Slow down. Think of it as tucking your knees in before tucking yourself in. Now some people ask me about those herbal creams or ointments that claim to warm joints overnight. My take. They're a mixed bag. Some use menthol or capsaicin to stimulate a sensation of warmth, but they don't truly warm the tissue. They trick your nerves, not your circulation. That said, if you enjoy the feeling and it doesn't irritate your skin, I say go for it. Just remember, nothing beats actual thermal care. If you're extra sensitive to cold, consider layering with soft woolen leg warmers, not tight, just snug. Avoid synthetic blends that trap sweat or overheat the skin. Warmth should breathe. Lastly, let's talk about sleep quality itself. Your knees don't just affect sleep because they hurt. They affect sleep because your brain is listening to discomfort even if it doesn't fully wake you up. Subtle joint discomfort can reduce time spent in deep sleep, increase tossing and turning, and leave you feeling unrefreshed even if you think you slept through the night. So keeping your knees warm isn't just about joint health. It's about full body rest, the kind that lets you wake up feeling like you. Let me offer you one final image. Imagine your knees wrapped in quiet warmth tonight, supported, elevated, unbothered. Your body sleeps, but your joints, they breathe easy. Let's take a moment to appreciate something: simple socks, wraps, and old blankets. You might be thinking, what can these possibly do for my knees? More than you think. In a world obsessed with high-tech solutions, pain gels, joint injections, digital massagers, it's easy to forget that sometimes the gentlest answers are already in your drawer. Let's start with socks. Now I'm not talking about the usual ankle socks you toss on in a hurry. I mean long, soft, non-restrictive socks that stretch up to your knees. The kind that doesn't squeeze but rather hugs, warm, breathable, and safe to sleep in. Because here's the fun fact. Warming your calves and shins can help your knees stay warm too. Why? Because the blood that reaches your knees often flows through the muscles and vessels in your lower leg first. If your feet and shins are cold, the blood flow slows before it even reaches your knees. It's like trying to heat a room when the hallway door is left open to a cold breeze. This is where socks become your nighttime allies. And not just any socks. Look for natural fibers like bamboo cotton or merino wool. Avoid anything too tight around the top. If there's a red ring on your leg in the morning, too tight. Now let's talk about wraps. Many older folks feel self-conscious about using wraps at home. They're for injuries, they say, but not always. Knee wraps or soft braces can offer gentle compression and warmth without restricting movement. And that's important, because you don't want to trap your knee, you want to support it. I had a widower patient once, Mr. Bin, who used his late wife's old silk scarf every night, wrapped it around his knees, knotted it loosely. He said it helped him sleep better than any painkiller ever had. There's no science behind that scarf in particular, but there is plenty behind the ritual of creating comfort, of marking bedtime with something tender. Now about old blankets. You probably have a few around folded at the foot of the bed, stacked in a closet, maybe even passed down from family. Don't underestimate them. Thicker isn't always better, by the way. What you want is layering multiple thin layers you can adjust as the night progresses. Blankets trap air between them, and air is nature's insulation. Try folding a light blanket and laying it directly over your knees under the covers. Just that small addition can create a heat pocket that protects your joints while the rest of your body stays cool and relaxed. But here's the catch. Don't let it press too hard. Excess weight on a sensitive joint can create pressure pain, even without you realizing it. Some doctors still debate whether these simple warmth techniques actually help joint health. But I've yet to meet a patient who regretted sleeping with cozy knees. Now here's a tip that surprises most people. Dry skin can make your knees feel colder. Why? Because dry skin acts like cracked insulation, less efficient at trapping heat. So before bed, try rubbing in a bit of unscented lotion or a natural oil like coconut or olive oil. It's not just about skincare, it's about heat retention. And as a bonus, the act of massaging the knees helps stimulate blood flow right before rest. A few other unexpected items I've recommended to patients over the years. Old flannel pajama pants cut into knee wraps. Baby leg warmers repurposed for arthritic joints. Microwavable grain packs wrapped in a towel for safety. Knitted leg sleeves from thrift stores or family members. Whatever you choose, the rule is simple. If it feels comforting, breathable, and safe, it's doing its job. Because it's not just about the object itself, it's about what that warmth represents. Care, attention, a soft voice saying, "I see you, I'm here, you're not forgotten." That's powerful medicine. Tonight, when you settle into bed, give your knees something to remember, a layer of warmth, a moment of ease. Not because they're broken, but because they've been strong for you for a very long time. You've heard of hot water bottles, electric heating pads, maybe even infrared therapy belts. They all promise the same thing, heat. But here's a warm-hearted warning. Sometimes heat can hurt. Let me explain. When your knees are aching on a cold night, it's tempting to grab the nearest source of heat and crank it up. You press the pad directly onto the joint's eye in relief and maybe even drift off. But here's what you don't feel happening underneath. Overheating can actually increase inflammation. Surprised? Most people are. Because heat feels good in the moment, it relaxes muscles, soothes tension. But prolonged or intense heat, especially if applied directly to the kneecap or inner joint, can lead to a rebound effect. The warmth dilates blood vessels. Yes. But if your knee is already slightly inflamed, which many aging knees are, it can make that inflammation worse. Some doctors still debate this effect, especially in mild osteoarthritis cases. But in my experience, what matters most is how and when heat is applied. Let me share a story. One of my patients, Mrs. Land, swore by her electric heating pad. Every night she'd wrap it around her knees and fall asleep. For a while it worked, but after a few weeks her pain started getting worse in the mornings. She thought the device was broken. But the truth, her joints were reacting to too much direct heat over too long a time. We swapped it for something simpler, a microwavable rice bag wrapped in a towel, applied for 15 minutes before bed, not during. Within a week, her morning stiffness improved. Here's why that mattered. Moderate warmth activates circulation. Excessive or prolonged heat can irritate already inflamed tissue. It's all about balance. So how do you know if you're using the wrong kind of heat? Here are a few clues. Your knees feel puffy or warmer to the touch after heating. Pain returns sharply after removing the heat. You're waking up with more stiffness than before. The skin feels overly dry or red. Now let's switch to solutions. If you love warmth, and most of us do, here's how to do it safely. Use indirect heat. Always place a cloth barrier between your skin and any heat source. Time it right. Apply heat before bed, not during. Let the joint benefit from warmth while you're still awake and moving a little. Stick to 10-15 minutes. That's all your knees need to respond positively. Longer isn't always better. Skip overnight heating devices. Even with timers, they pose a risk not just to your joints, but to your skin. Aging skin is thinner and more sensitive to burns or dryness. Listen to your body. If something feels too hot, it probably is. Don't override your instinct just because a product said it's safe. Now let's talk alternatives. Sometimes the feeling of warmth is enough to signal your brain that you're okay. That's why I often recommend warming surroundings, not just the joint itself. Warm up your room before bed. Use a heated blanket on low, covering the bed, not directly over your knees. Take a warm foot bath before sleep. Your knees benefit too from improved lower leg circulation. Here's an unexpected tip. Breathing deeply can also warm the body. When you breathe slowly and fully, especially into your belly, it activates your parasympathetic nervous system. This reduces stress, increases circulation, and subtly raises body temperature. I call it warmth from within. It costs nothing, and it works. So tonight, don't just reach for the heat. Think about the quality of the warmth. Ask, is this gentle? Is it loving? Or is it just hot? Because healing warmth feels like comfort, not fire. Like safety, not intensity. Let your knees feel cared for, not cauterized. Have you ever noticed that certain meals make your whole body feel warmer? Not spicy hot exactly, but a gentle warmth, a fullness, almost like a blanket from the inside out. Well, your knees notice it too. What you eat can influence how warm or cold your joints feel. Yes, really. Most people don't think of food as connected to their knees. They imagine diet helps with cholesterol digestion or maybe energy. But knees? Let me gently correct that misconception. Let's start with this truth. Your joints are fed by your blood, and your blood is fed by your food. If your diet is missing key nutrients, or if your digestion has slowed with age, then your joints aren't getting the building blocks they need to stay cushioned, lubricated, and yes, warm. Some doctors still argue whether specific foods can warm the joints. But culturally, around the world, elders have long relied on warming meals to ease winter aches. And guess what? Modern science is starting to catch up. Let me walk you through a few quiet heroes of the dinner table. 1. Ginger. This humble root isn't just for tea or cookies. It contains compounds that gently improve circulation and reduce low-level inflammation. Add it fresh to soups, porridges, or broths. You'll be surprised how soothing it feels. 2. Turmeric, another anti-inflammatory champion. Used in countless traditional dishes, especially with black pepper to boost absorption. It won't work like a painkiller, but over time, it may help joints feel more limber, less stuck. 3. Warm broths, chicken, beef, or vegetable, doesn't matter. What matters is the temperature and the minerals. Sipping a cup of warm broth before bed delivers hydration, gentle heat, and minerals like magnesium and calcium. And bonus, it helps you sleep better too. 4. Omega-3 fats, found in fatty fish like salmon, sardines, or even chia seeds. They don't heat you up directly, but they reduce joint inflammation, which allows blood flow to improve naturally. 5. Nighttime teas, ginger, cinnamon, chamomile, licorice, or golden milk with turmeric and honey. The ritual of a warm drink before bed doesn't just relax your mind, it primes your circulation for rest. Now here's the flip side. Certain foods quietly rob your knees of warmth. Processed sugars, excessive caffeine, too much alcohol, or salty snack foods may seem harmless. But they dehydrate you, disrupt mineral balance, and strain your circulation. I once had a patient, Mr. Twan, who always felt worse on Sunday nights. His knees ached more. His sleep was broken. Turns out every Sunday evening he'd snack on a giant bowl of instant noodles and soda while watching football. We made a deal switch to a warm miso broth and roasted nuts. No more pain. Why? Because food speaks the language of your blood, and your blood whispers to your joints. Another often overlooked truth, hydration affects warmth. When you're even mildly dehydrated, your blood volume drops slightly. Less blood, less heat, colder knees. So, even if you're eating warming foods without water, they don't travel well. Make it a quiet habit. A warm drink an hour before bed. Not cold water, not fizzy soda, just something soothing and room temp or warmer. Now I know some of you worry about nighttime bathroom trips. And that's fair. But a small intentional cup is different from guzzling a liter. You're not trying to flood your system. You're trying to nudge it back toward balance. Because what you eat, especially at night, isn't just fuel. It's instruction. It tells your body we're safe, we're ready to repair. And that includes your knees. So tonight, as you prepare for bed, ask yourself, did I feed my warmth or fight it? Did my plate include something living, colorful, gently cooked? Did I treat my dinner like medicine? Or just a pit stop? There's wisdom in the old saying, your dinner decides your morning. And that includes whether your knees feel heavy sore or quietly thankful. Stillness may feel peaceful, but for your knees, it can be a little too quiet. Picture this: you've had a calm, restful day. Maybe you napped, read a book, or watched your favorite show. Barely moved, no pain, no strain. But when bedtime rolls around, your knees feel heavy, stiff, like they aged another 5 years while you sat still. Sound familiar? Here's the paradox. Resting too much can make your joints feel worse, not better. Because joints, especially the knees, were designed to move, and movement creates warmth. Now, I'm not talking about cardio workouts or squats. I'm talking about gentle, nourishing movement, tiny motions that wake up circulation and lubricate your joints without straining them. Think of your knee like a small, sleepy factory. Every time you bend and straighten it, even just a little, it pumps fluid through the cartilage. That fluid carries oxygen, nutrients, and warmth. When you stop moving, the pump shuts down, and like any factory left idle things, start to creak and seize. That's why I often say movement is medicine and warmth is movement. Now, some doctors argue about how much motion is truly needed to preserve knee function. But everyone agrees motion is better than motionlessness, especially when it's the right kind of motion. Let me share a few favorites that I've seen work wonders. No gym, no equipment, just you and a quiet room. 1. Seated knee rolls. Sit at the edge of your bed. Lift one foot slightly and rotate your lower leg slowly in small circles 5 times each direction. Then switch legs. This gentle motion warms up the joint capsule and wakes up circulation without any strain. 2. Ankle pumps. While lying down, flex and point your toes repeatedly. You'll feel the muscles in your calves and shins activate. This stimulates the venous return and supports the blood flow that eventually reaches your knees. 3. Mini marching in place. Stand near a wall or sturdy chair. Lift one knee a few inches, then switch. Slow and steady. Just 1-2 minutes before bed. It's more effective than you think. I had a patient once, Mrs. Hoa, age 78, who struggled with stiff knees every morning. She dreaded getting out of bed. We added one new routine. 10 slow steps around the room before sleep. That's it. After 2 weeks, her stiffness cut in half. She said, "It's like I'm oiling the hinges before closing the door." Exactly. Because that's what motion does. It prepares your body for rest without freezing in place. Another trick motion with warmth. Do a few gentle knee bends right after applying a warm cloth. The heat loosens the joint. The motion locks it in. Even 3 to 5 reps is enough. Now, here's a surprising fact. Your muscles generate most of your body heat, not your fat. So as you age and lose muscle, you don't just lose strength. You lose the ability to warm yourself from the inside. That's why movement matters more with each passing decade, not just for mobility, but for comfort. Even small routines can restore that internal fire. No pain, no sweat, just slow, mindful motion. And if you're thinking, "But I'm too tired at night," remember, you're not trying to energize yourself. You're preparing your body for deeper rest, like stretching the pages of a book before closing the cover. Now, if you're someone who deals with restless legs at night, this might help too. Gentle pre-sleep movement helps release that pent-up energy from your lower body. And instead of tossing and turning your legs, will feel settled. Try it tonight, even one of the motions above. See how your knees respond in the morning. Because every step you take, even a tiny one, tells your knees, "I remember you. I'm here for you." And believe me, they'll listen. Now we've talked about science. We've talked about stories. But tonight, let me share something personal, my own bedtime knee ritual. It's not complicated. It doesn't require fancy tools. And no, it doesn't involve any magic ointments or 10-step routines. It's just something I do every single night because I've learned to listen to what my knees have to say. And believe me, after years of helping others, I know the aches of long days. Standing, walking, crouching over charts, helping patients in and out of chairs, always moving. Even as a doctor, I'm not immune to the quiet whisper of sore joints. So this little routine, it's part care, part habit, and part thank you. Let's walk through it together. Step 1. The warm cloth. Before brushing my teeth, I microwave a damp cloth for 20 seconds. Just warm, never hot. I fold it in half, wrap it around one knee, and sit. I close my eyes. Breathe. Feel the heat sink in, not just into the skin, but deeper, into the places that carried me all day. Then I switch sides. 2 minutes each, enough time to center myself, enough time to be still but not stiff. Step 2. The gentle stretch. Standing beside the bed, I do what I call the knee wave. It's not fancy. I gently bend each knee 10 times, slow and easy. Not a squat, just a bend, like I'm preparing to sit, but stopping halfway. No strain, no rush. This tells my joints you're still useful, still needed, still part of this life. And it brings blood where it's needed most, right before rest. Step 3, the wrap. Then comes the scarf. Yes, an old soft scarf, not orthopedic, not technical. It once belonged to my father. I tie it loosely around both knees, one after the other. Just a single wrap, not tight, just enough to hold warmth in place. Is it clinical? No. Is it effective? For me, yes, because it feels like comfort, like memory, like grace. Step 4, the position. I lie on my back and place a thin pillow under my knees. Not bulky, just enough to keep the bend natural. And sometimes, if the night feels colder, I layer a thin blanket just over the knees. That heat pocket we talked about earlier. It works, not just on the body, but on the heart. Because this moment needs warm breath, slow, body quiet, it feels like a full stop. The kind that says, you've done enough today. Rest. You don't need a ritual exactly like mine. Yours might involve tea, or an essential oil, or a favorite pair of pajamas that makes your body say, ah. The details don't matter. The message does. And that message is simple. You are allowed to care for your knees, not because they're broken, but because they're yours, and they've walked you through every chapter of life so far. Some folks think this kind of routine is silly, that warmth and softness can't really change joint health. But let me tell you, after decades of practice, I've seen it. Not just in x-rays or test results, in smiles, in easier mornings, in eyes that say, I slept well last night. So tonight, as this story winds down, I invite you to make your own ritual. Not out of fear, out of kindness. Because healing doesn't always come from pills or surgeries. Sometimes it starts with attention, with the quiet act of noticing your body's needs and responding with love. You've cared for others, carried children, climbed stairs, danced at weddings, knelt in prayer. Your knees were there for all of it. It's okay to return the favor now. You've done something good tonight. You've taken time to listen, not just to a voice, but to your body, and that matters. Even if you don't remember every tip, your body will remember the feeling, the warmth, the quiet, the permission to rest. Your knees are not burdens. They're storytellers, and by caring for them, you're telling them, I still believe in you. So let your breath soften now. Let your legs relax. Let every part of you unclench just a little more. You don't have to do anything. Just be. If your knees are wrapped, feel their comfort. If they're bare, send them a warm thought. If you forgot everything else, remember this. You are worthy of care. The fan hums gently. The covers rise and fall with your breath. And somewhere inside you, the fires of healing flicker, steady and calm. Sleep well, friend. I'll see you again tomorrow night.